What if the very thing destroying your relationships, your respect, and your chances in life is not your enemies, but your own mouth? What if the obstacle that quietly follows you from one conflict to another, from one lost opportunity to the next, is not fate, bad luck, or hostile people, but the simple inability to control the words leaving your lips? Most people spend years trying to outwork their competition, trying to outsmart their rivals, trying to improve their appearance, their skills, and their social influence. Yet very few people ever stop to examine the most dangerous instrument they carry with them every day, their own speech. The mouth, when undisciplined, becomes the architect of personal destruction. It builds resentment, invites conflict, exposes weaknesses, and burns bridges that once could have supported an entire future. If you're ready to stop letting your mouth sabotage your progress and start mastering the discipline of silence, write this in the comments below. I master my words. Nothing can break me. Let that be the vow that turns your mouth from your greatest enemy into your greatest weapon. Let it remind you that your words should never be careless. Your voice should never be impulsive. Your speech should never be controlled by emotion rather than intention. Once you begin observing your own speech, you will notice something surprising. Most conversations contain far more unnecessary words than meaningful ones. People talk to fill silence. They talk to prove intelligence. They talk to defend ego. They talk to gain attention. But very rarely do they talk with deliberate purpose. Most people lose opportunities not because they lack intelligence, strength, or talent. They lose because they cannot control their mouth. Words are powerful tools, but they can also become powerful weapons against your own life. A careless sentence can destroy trust, expose your weaknesses, ruin relationships, and close doors that may never open again. Wise people understand something that many never learn. Discipline of the mouth is discipline of destiny. Look closely at the lives of those who constantly struggle with broken relationships, workplace conflicts, damaged reputations, and missed opportunities. Often the pattern is the same. They speak too quickly. They speak too emotionally. They speak too much. They reveal information that should have remained private. They react before thinking. They argue when silence would have preserved their dignity. And slowly, over time, the damage accumulates. Trust erodes. Respect weakens. Influence fades. Not because these individuals lacked intelligence, but because they lacked restraint. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature. Speech is one of the greatest tests of self-mastery. Anyone can think wisely in private. Anyone can imagine themselves calm and rational when nothing provokes them. But when emotions rise, when someone challenges your ego, when your pride feels threatened, that is when discipline reveals itself. The undisciplined person reacts. The disciplined person chooses. And that difference, though invisible at first, quietly determines who gains respect and who gradually loses it. And those who learn to control this impulse gain a quiet advantage. When you master what you say, when you say it, and whether it needs to be said at all, you gain an advantage most people never develop. Here are 9 ways to win in life simply by learning to control your mouth. Ignore even one of them, and the very thing meant to express your thoughts can become your greatest enemy. Number 1. Speak less than you know. The strongest people in any room are often the quietest observers. When you speak less, you listen more. And when you listen more, you learn more about people's intentions, weaknesses, and motivations. Those who constantly reveal their thoughts lose the advantage of mystery. Silence creates respect and keeps your power intact. Most people misunderstand silence. They believe silence makes them invisible. They believe speaking frequently proves intelligence or confidence. But in reality, excessive speech often reveals insecurity rather than strength. When someone constantly tries to prove how much they know, they unintentionally expose how much they need validation. The disciplined mind understands a different strategy. Knowledge grows in silence. Imagine walking into a meeting where 10 people are discussing an important decision. Some speak immediately, eager to show their opinions. Others interrupt, competing for attention. But the person who listens carefully, observing the tone of each voice, noticing who dominates the conversation, noticing who hesitates before speaking, that person gathers more information than anyone else in the room. And when they finally speak, their words carry weight. Why? Because silence created anticipation. When someone rarely speaks but chooses their moment carefully, people instinctively listen. The room becomes quiet, because everyone senses that the words about to be spoken were not rushed. They were considered, measured, deliberate. This is power. In contrast, the person who speaks constantly loses influence. Their words blend into the background noise. Their opinions become predictable. Their presence becomes familiar in a way that reduces impact. Silence protects intelligence. When you reveal everything you know, you surrender the advantage of surprise. But when you speak less than you know, people often assume you know even more. Mystery creates authority. Consider great strategists throughout history. They rarely revealed their full intentions. They listened, observed, and allowed others to speak first. Information flowed toward them because people underestimated the quiet observer. You can practice this discipline daily. In conversations, pause before responding. Listen fully instead of preparing your reply while someone else speaks. Allow silence to exist without rushing to fill it. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. Society trains people to fear silence. But over time, you will notice something powerful. People begin revealing more information around you. They trust the listener. They speak freely in the presence of someone who does not constantly compete for attention. And through listening, you gain insight that endless talking would never provide. Number 2, never speak in anger. Anger is a temporary emotion, but the words spoken during anger can leave permanent damage. In moments of rage, people reveal secrets, insult others, and destroy relationships that once took years to build. The disciplined person pauses. They allow emotion to pass before speaking. Self-control protects what impulsive speech would destroy. Anger narrows the mind. When emotions surge, rational thinking retreats. The brain shifts into defense mode, interpreting disagreement as attack. In this state, speech becomes reckless. Words are no longer chosen carefully, they are fired like weapons. And once spoken, they cannot be recalled. Many relationships end not because of a single disagreement, but because of the words spoken during anger. Words that attack character rather than address problems. Words that humiliate rather than clarify. Words that cut deeper than the original conflict ever could. In the heat of the moment, these words may feel justified, but once the emotion fades, regret often follows. The Stoics taught a simple yet powerful discipline: delay reaction. When anger rises, pause. Do not respond immediately. Do not argue immediately. Do not explain immediately. Allow the emotion to pass through you like a storm, rather than allowing it to direct your speech. Sometimes this means leaving the conversation temporarily. Sometimes it means saying very little. Sometimes it means waiting hours before replying to a message. This pause is not weakness, it is strength. The person who can delay speech until emotion settles possesses a level of control that most people never develop. They refuse to allow temporary anger to produce permanent damage. Think about how many conflicts escalate simply because neither person pauses. One insult triggers another. One accusation triggers a harsher response. Soon, the original issue disappears, replaced by a battle of egos. But the disciplined individual breaks this chain. When anger appears, they slow down. They choose their words carefully. They refuse to escalate the situation with reckless speech. And often, this single act of restraint prevents conflicts that could have lasted for years. Number 3, avoid unnecessary criticism. Constantly pointing out flaws in others does not make you appear wise. It makes you appear negative. Criticism should be rare and constructive, not habitual. When you reserve your words for moments that truly matter, people listen more carefully. There is a hidden arrogance in constant criticism. It is the quiet belief that every mistake must be corrected, Every weakness must be exposed, and every imperfection must be addressed immediately. Many people disguise this habit as honesty. They say, "I just speak my mind," as if impulsive judgment were a virtue. But wisdom does not demand constant commentary. Wisdom demands restraint. The truth is that most criticism accomplishes very little. It rarely improves behavior, and it almost always damages relationships. When someone feels judged, their natural response is not gratitude, it is defense. The human mind protects its dignity before it accepts correction. And so, criticism, when delivered carelessly or too frequently, produces the opposite effect of what the speaker intends. Instead of improvement, it creates resistance. Instead of understanding, it creates distance. Look closely at individuals who constantly criticize others. Notice how their presence gradually becomes exhausting. People become cautious around them. Conversations become guarded. Laughter becomes restrained. Over time, others begin avoiding their company entirely. Not because criticism is always wrong, but because relentless negativity drains the emotional atmosphere of any environment. The disciplined mind understands that correction is most powerful when it is rare. When someone who rarely criticizes finally speaks, people listen carefully. Their words carry weight precisely because they are not wasted on trivial matters. This is the difference between noise and authority. Consider a leader in a workplace. One leader complains constantly about small mistakes, minor inefficiencies, insignificant details. The team quickly becomes numb to the criticism. Eventually, they stop listening altogether. But another leader speaks rarely about mistakes. When something truly important occurs, they address it calmly and clearly. Their words command attention because they are not diluted by constant negativity. This principle applies in every area of life, in friendships, in family relationships, in professional environments. The person who criticizes less becomes more respected because their words appear measured rather than reactive. But avoiding unnecessary criticism does not mean ignoring problems. It means choosing the correct moment and method. The Stoic approach to correction is not emotional judgment, but rational guidance. Instead of attacking a person's character, focus on improving the situation. Instead of humiliating someone publicly, speak privately. Instead of reacting immediately, consider whether the issue truly matters in the long term. Many conflicts could disappear entirely if people simply ask themselves a simple question before criticizing: is this necessary? Most of the time, the honest answer is no. Sometimes silence protects harmony more effectively than correction. Sometimes allowing small imperfections to pass unnoticed preserves relationships that harsh criticism would weaken. The disciplined speaker recognizes that not every flaw requires attention, and when they do speak, they choose their words carefully, not to wound, but to guide. Number 4, do not reveal all your plans. Ambition grows stronger in silence. The more people know about your intentions, the more opinions, doubts, and interference you invite. Quiet preparation is often the safest path to meaningful achievement. Let results speak louder than announcements. There is a strange temptation within human nature, the urge to announce our ambitions before they are accomplished. The moment an idea appears, many people feel compelled to share it with others. They describe their goals, their strategies, their plans for success. They imagine the admiration and encouragement they will receive, but this habit carries hidden risks. The more people who know your plans, the more external influence enters your path. Some will offer encouragement, others will offer doubt, some will question your ability. Others will unintentionally discourage you by projecting their own fears, and slowly, your original clarity becomes clouded by the opinions of others. What began as a focused ambition becomes a conversation. The Stoics valued quiet discipline over loud intention. They understood that progress grows best in private effort rather than public announcement. When a person quietly works toward a goal without constant discussion, their energy remains directed toward action rather than explanation. Consider how often people speak about things they never complete. Someone announces a new business idea. Another speaks about the book they will write. Someone else describes the major life change they intend to make. Weeks pass, months pass, and nothing happens. Why? Because announcing a goal can create the illusion of progress. The brain receives a small sense of satisfaction simply from discussing the ambition. It feels as though something meaningful has already occurred, even though no real work has been done. Silence removes this illusion. When you keep your plans private, the only satisfaction available comes from real progress. You are forced to act rather than talk. You measure success through results rather than reactions. There is another advantage to silence: protection. Not everyone around you wants to see you succeed. Some people appear supportive while quietly hoping you fail. Others may unintentionally sabotage your progress through jealousy, doubt, or careless advice. The more people involved in your plans, the greater the risk of interference. Quiet ambition protects your focus. Instead of explaining your vision repeatedly, you spend that energy building it. Instead of defending your idea against criticism, you refine it through action. And eventually, when the results appear, the same people who doubted you witness something undeniable. Achievement requires no announcement. Results introduce themselves. Number 5. Refuse to participate in gossip. Gossip spreads quickly, but it always leaves a stain on the person speaking it. When you avoid discussing others behind their backs, you build a reputation of integrity. People trust those who guard conversations carefully. Gossip appears harmless on the surface. It often begins with curiosity or casual conversation. Someone mentions another person's behavior. Someone else adds a small detail. Soon, the discussion grows into speculation, judgment, and exaggeration. What began as information transforms into entertainment, but gossip carries a hidden cost. Every time someone participates in gossip, they reveal something about their character. They reveal that private information is not safe in their presence. They reveal that loyalty can be easily replaced by convenience, and others notice. Even if people laugh during the conversation, a silent calculation occurs in their minds. If this person speaks this way about someone who is absent, what will they say about me when I am not here? Trust quietly disappears. The disciplined person refuses to participate in this cycle. When gossip begins, they change the subject, remain silent, or redirect the conversation. Not because they wish to appear morally superior, but because they understand the long-term consequences of careless speech. Reputation is built slowly through small moments of behavior. Every time you refuse to engage in gossip, you strengthen the perception that your words are trustworthy. People begin to understand that what they share with you will remain protected. And in a world where information travels quickly and loyalty is often fragile, this reputation becomes extremely valuable. Eventually, something interesting begins to happen. People start trusting you with meaningful conversations rather than trivial gossip. They seek your presence for thoughtful discussion rather than idle speculation. Your voice becomes associated with integrity rather than entertainment. And that quiet reputation built through disciplined silence creates opportunities that careless talk could never produce. Number 6. Choose your words with precision. Words are like tools. Used carefully, they can build relationships, inspire confidence, and create opportunities. Used carelessly, they can destroy trust instantly. Speak clearly, calmly, and thoughtfully so that every word serves a purpose. Most people treat words as if they are endless and without consequence. They speak quickly, filling conversations with vague expressions, exaggerated statements, emotional reactions, and careless promises. But words are not harmless sounds. They are instruments of influence. They shape how others perceive your intelligence, your character, and your reliability. Every sentence you speak quietly builds a reputation. The disciplined individual understands that words must be selected the way a skilled craftsman selects tools. Not every tool is appropriate for every situation. Precision matters, A single, carefully chosen sentence can resolve confusion, inspire cooperation, or calm tension. Meanwhile, one poorly chosen phrase can ignite conflict, create misunderstanding, or permanently damage trust. Consider how often misunderstandings begin with unclear speech. Someone speaks emotionally rather than clearly. Another person interprets those words in the worst possible way. Soon, both individuals are reacting not to facts, but to assumptions created by imprecise language. This is why disciplined speakers slow down their speech. They avoid exaggeration. They avoid vague accusations. They avoid emotional language that escalates tension rather than resolving it. Instead, they choose clarity. For example, when frustrated, many people say things like, "You never listen to me." But the word never immediately invites defense. The other person begins searching their memory for moments when they did listen. The conversation becomes a debate over accuracy rather than a discussion of the real issue. A disciplined speaker chooses different words. They might say, "I feel unheard when this happens." The meaning becomes clearer, and the conversation remains focused on the problem rather than on defending pride. Precision also applies to promises. One of the fastest ways to lose credibility is through careless commitments. Many people promise things they cannot deliver simply to please others in the moment. They say yes too quickly. They agree to responsibilities they do not intend to fulfill. Later, when those promises collapse, their reliability collapses with them. The disciplined person understands a simple principle: speak fewer promises, but honor every one of them. When your words consistently match your actions, something powerful happens. People begin trusting not just what you say, but who you are. Your voice becomes associated with reliability. When you make a commitment, others feel secure because your speech has proven itself over time. This is the quiet power of precise speech. Your words stop being casual noise. They become dependable signals. And that reputation built slowly through disciplined language creates influence that cannot be faked. Number 7. Do not argue with people who seek conflict. Some individuals thrive on debate and drama. Engaging them only drains your energy. Silence or calm withdrawal often communicates more strength than endless argument. Winning every argument is not necessary to win in life. Many people believe that defending their opinion in every disagreement proves strength. They feel compelled to respond to every criticism, correct every misunderstanding, and defeat every opposing viewpoint. But this instinct often leads to endless conflict with individuals who are not seeking truth at all. Some people do not argue to understand. They argue to dominate. Their goal is not clarity, it is emotional victory. They enjoy provoking reactions, raising their voice, twisting words, and dragging conversations into unnecessary drama. When you engage such individuals, you step into a battlefield designed entirely for their entertainment. And no matter how logical your arguments are, you will rarely change their mind. Why? Because their position is not based on logic. It is based on ego. The Stoics understood that peace of mind requires selective engagement. Not every challenge deserves your attention. Not every opinion requires correction. Not every accusation requires defense. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Consider how arguments escalate. One person speaks aggressively, the other responds defensively. Soon, both individuals become emotionally invested in winning rather than understanding. Voices rise. Pride takes control, and hours later, nothing meaningful has been achieved. Both sides walk away exhausted. The disciplined person recognizes these patterns early. When someone begins provoking conflict rather than seeking discussion, they disengage. They respond briefly, calmly, or not at all. This restraint often frustrates those who thrive on drama because their power depends entirely on your participation. Without your emotional reaction, the conflict cannot grow. And something interesting happens when you refuse unnecessary arguments. Your energy remains intact. Your reputation remains calm. Your mind remains focused on matters that actually matter. Meanwhile, those who constantly chase arguments slowly become known for conflict. People begin avoiding their presence. Their influence weakens because every conversation becomes a potential battle. True strength is not proven by winning every debate. True strength is proven by knowing which battles are worth your attention. Number 8. Speak encouragement more than complaint. People naturally gravitate toward those who uplift rather than those who constantly complain. Encouragement builds connection and strengthens influence. When your words bring clarity and hope, your presence becomes valuable. There is a powerful emotional difference between individuals who constantly complain and those who consistently encourage. The person who complains fills conversations with frustration. They focus on problems without offering solutions. They criticize circumstances without proposing improvement. Over time, this pattern becomes exhausting for everyone around them. Negativity spreads quickly through language. When someone repeatedly complains, they influence the emotional atmosphere of every environment they enter. Conversations become heavier. Energy decreases. Motivation fades. But the disciplined speaker understands the responsibility that comes with influence. Words can drain people, or they can strengthen them. Encouragement does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems do not exist. It means addressing challenges with a constructive mindset. Instead of spreading frustration, you offer perspective. Instead of amplifying negativity, you create direction. Consider how powerful a few supportive words can be in the right moment. Someone facing difficulty may only need reassurance that progress is possible. Someone doubting their abilities may only need a reminder of their strengths. A simple sentence, spoken with sincerity, can restore confidence. And people remember those moments. They remember the person who spoke calmly when everyone else complained. They remember the person who offered solutions when others spread pessimism. They remember the individual whose presence brought clarity rather than confusion. Over time, this habit builds quiet influence. People begin seeking your advice. They value your presence during difficult situations because they know your words will strengthen rather than weaken their mindset. Encouragement multiplies respect, not because it flatters others, but because it reflects emotional maturity. It shows that you understand the power of language to shape the emotional environment around you. And those who master this discipline become valuable voices in any group, any workplace, and any relationship. Number 9. Know when silence is the strongest answer. Not every question requires a response. Not every insult deserves attention. Silence can communicate dignity, patience, and control. The ability to remain silent when others expect reaction is one of the greatest signs of maturity. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness. Many people assume that if someone does not respond immediately to criticism, accusation, or insult, they must be unable to defend themselves. But in reality, silence often reflects a deeper level of control. The disciplined mind understands that attention is a resource. Every response you give invests energy into a situation. Every argument you join gives the conflict life. Every insult you answer keeps the hostility alive. But silence interrupts this cycle. When someone attempts to provoke you and receives no reaction, their effort loses power. Without resistance, conflict cannot grow. Without attention, negativity fades. This is why silence can be one of the most powerful responses available. Imagine someone insults you publicly, expecting anger or retaliation. If you respond emotionally, the situation escalates. Others become involved. The conflict grows larger than the original insult. But if you remain calm and silent, the insult hangs awkwardly in the air. The aggressor suddenly appears childish rather than powerful. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their behavior. This discipline requires confidence. Only individuals secure in their character can resist the urge to defend themselves in every situation. They understand that reputation is built through consistent behavior over time, not through winning every verbal battle. Silence also protects you during moments of uncertainty. When you lack complete information, speaking too quickly can lead to mistakes. The disciplined person waits. They observe. They gather understanding before forming conclusions. And often, while others rush to speak, the situation resolves itself without their involvement. Mastering silence does not mean suppressing your voice. It means understanding when speech adds value and when it merely adds noise. It means recognizing that dignity is sometimes preserved not through clever responses, but through calm restraint. Mastering your mouth does not mean suppressing your voice. It means choosing your words wisely so that they serve your growth rather than sabotage it. When you control your speech, you control how people perceive you, how conflicts unfold, and how opportunities appear. A disciplined tongue builds trust, preserves peace, and protects your reputation. Over time, this discipline becomes more than a communication skill. It becomes a form of inner mastery. You begin noticing the impulses that once controlled your speech, the urge to interrupt, the urge to prove yourself, the urge to respond emotionally. Instead of obeying these impulses, you observe them, and observation creates freedom. You realize that silence can strengthen authority. You realize that restraint can prevent regret. You realize that careful words can open doors that careless speech would have closed forever. In a world where many people speak impulsively, the person who speaks deliberately becomes rare, and rarity creates respect. Your voice becomes associated with clarity. Your words become associated with reliability. Your presence becomes associated with calm strength. Eventually, people notice something different about you. Conversations around you become more thoughtful. Conflicts around you become less chaotic. Opportunities appear because others trust the discipline behind your words. And that is the quiet reward of mastering your mouth. You are no longer controlled by speech. Speech becomes controlled by you. Say this to yourself and write it in the comments. I speak with wisdom. My mouth will never be my enemy.